Alrighty, so hopefully the sound quality is going to be okay because I opened up the speaker port and it's a little bit windy today. So hopefully there's not too much wind noise and you can hear me. So we're starting off with our pre-trip type deal. It's not a full pre-trip as the ministry or the state requires. It's something just that I do, and sometimes I tend to look for a little bit more than what the pre-trip states. So I'm going to go over some areas that are really vital for you guys to look at that you may not necessarily get covered in the pre-trip. So the first thing we're going to do now, assuming you've had your truck off for at least 15-20 minutes and it's been parked and idle and not running. You know, in the wintertime it's hard because usually your trucks have been idling. You'll get out, you'll start your pre-trip. Make sure you have your engine off for at least 15-20 minutes. So I recommend you shut your truck off, go inside, do your bathroom stuff, get your coffee, blah blah blah, come back in and then do your pre-trip, because you got to check your oil and you got to give your oil a chance to settle down to the oil pan itself. So I haven't checked my oil in a little while, just because once you get to know your truck, you don't necessarily need to check it every day. Well, some say you do. And that's the fun of getting to know, being with one unit. You get to know it, you get to know how much oil it burns. And we're getting close to having to put some in. I don't always put it in until it gets to the empty mark, and we are almost right on the empty mark, so actually it probably wouldn't hurt to put some in. And the oil goes in obviously up in there, which we will do some afterwards. I'm pretty sure I have some oil left. So okay, so let's continue. Some of the things you're definitely going to want to check is check all your lines around here. Okay, make sure everything, anything that's tied down like these are with zip ties, that the zip ties are good, and that you don't see anything chafing or wearing on those lines. And at the same token, you can look in here and you're going to look for any chafing on the lines, any abnormalities. Because of the amount of dirt on the engine, you will see any fresh marks or scrapes or cuts, anything like that. Should be fairly visible for you. Okay. Same with here. You want to check to make sure there's no real heavy free play in your steering. You're going to check down by your leaf springs, your shock absorbers. You're looking for anything, any kind of leakage on your shocks, any of your lines. Cracks should be fairly visible, especially when you have a little bit of dirt there. Cracks and fresh marks tend to be a little bit easier to notice. You're also going to be checking your brake chamber and whatnot and your hose for any abnormalities. Okay, your steering linkages you're going to check. You're going to check all your hoses, your clamps. Okay, I always just give them a little tug to make sure they haven't loosened up. You can see by the amount of dirt, if there's any fresh marks, you'll notice that they've loosened. Okay, you don't need to even open it up. You can see it on the side. Okay, you can see that you're good there. You know, just checking all your wiring, checking the side of the radiator for any kind of wetness. You know, looking at the engine for any kind of wetness. You know, once you get to know your engine, you got to look for the abnormalities. You know, you check your filter. It's nice and clear right now. As it goes on, it's going to get dirtier and dirtier, you know, to the point where it's going to have to be changed. You're going to definitely want to look at your belts. And what you're looking for in the belts, okay, is fray marks. If you see any kind of fray marks, then it is a sign that there is some trouble. You also, if you can reach in there, give it a little pull. Not that you're going to be able to do anything, just make sure that it's tight deal. You're also going to take a look down at the water pump housing, make sure there's no wetness or leaks on it coming out. Just because you know, if there's any kind of a cold leak, you might see it there. The fan blade, Okay, look at the ends of the blades as best you can. Make sure there's no nicks or chips in them. That means it's not unbalanced or rubbing up against anything. Alright, so it's fairly simple, guys. It's not rocket science here. You're looking for abnormalities here. You're looking for any bulges, any cracks, any kind of leakage, fresh leakage, wet spots, hoses hanging. Everything should be tied up and in its place. Anything that's hanging or drooping may not necessarily be a good thing, right? Fortunately, this wind may be a little bit too much today. I'm not sure. Again, you're looking at your reservoir. You don't even need to open it up. You can see the line where it's at. Again, from this side, you're going to look at your fan blades. Make sure there's no nicks or cuts in them, guys. Look at your pulleys and your belts. This side here, you cannot reach the belt, so don't worry about it. Just again, look for fray marks. Unless you're tall. You're tall, you could probably reach it. Okay. There's also a good time to fill up your washer fluid when you're stopped. Especially check around the filters here. Make sure that there's no leakage coming out. Check all the hoses. Look at all the fittings. If you see any wet spots, there's a good sign that there's leakage coming, right? The zip ties. You can see all the zip ties are all secure and in place. There is nothing that looks like it's been loose or because if it's loose and vibrating, it'll make like little fresh marks where you'll see it. Okay. Check all your AC lines. There's not a whole lot there that you can really check to see if it's leaking or not leaking. But all the same, just give them a look over, make sure everything is snug. All the zip ties are on. I'm gonna look up top, make sure all the zip ties are on. Turbo looks good. There's no black marks coming out from any of the main turbo areas to indicate that there's any kind of an exhaust leak. Okay, so that's something you definitely want to check. Again, you're going to check the side of the rad housing, whatnot, the cooler. This is where the cooler is up front. It's a little bit hard to check from here, but just try to get your face in a bit and look for any damages on it, any nicks and whatnot. Again, you're checking the leaf springs. You know, check your brake pod chamber. Make sure everything looks good inside here. There's no cracks, no bulges, no obstructions. And your hoses are all secure and good. Especially checking the leaf springs again, guys. Very important to make sure that there's no crack in them or that part of one is missing. I've seen that happen. Your I-beam looks good. It's a little bit harder to check, although it is a solid piece. One thing to check too, you can check for slippage, is look at your U-bolts here. You'll definitely notice if there's any kind of slippage, you'll see the marks, okay? So that's a warning sign that there is an issue. So you always want to keep an eye on that. Those of you that have the ProStars and have the flip down bumper, make sure it is secure, both sides, okay? Make sure all the brackets are tight, not loose, because you know, you don't want your bumper flipping down while you're driving, right? Okay, so fairly simple. And there's one area a lot of guys forget to check. Now, some trucks have it by spring, some have it by shock. This one is done by shock. You can see the hood is held together by a shock absorber. Just take a quick look at it. Nothing looks like it's loose or broken or hanging, because you know, you don't need that when you open your hood. You don't need that hitting the ground, right? Now, while you're down here doing the engine compartment, it's a good idea. Look at your windshield too from both sides. Make sure there's no additional cracks. You really might not see it from the outside, but you will see it from the inside, okay? Again, look at all your air lines, everything. Just, you're gonna look over everything and you're looking for any fresh marks, any kind of leakage, any kind of rubbing, anything that's hanging or drooping that, you know, more than likely shouldn't be. You want to make sure that everything is clear and free from the fan, because you don't want any wires getting in there. So make sure all your zip ties look good. That's pretty simple, isn't it? Can't get much simpler than that. I mean, it's an engine compartment. Alright, well, we're just going to throw some oil in here. clean it off. We'll let that drain in. While it's draining, we're just looking at everything once over again. I know I might have forgotten to actually mention something, but it doesn't mean I haven't looked at it, okay guys? You get so used to getting under here and looking at everything that when you see something out of place, it does stand out to you, okay? But you do need to look. There we go. 3/4 of a gallon put in. And we're not going to check it right away just because it takes a little bit for the oil to get completely down in there. And that pretty much covers it. Hopefully the sound wasn't too horrible with the wind noise. And if it was, well, this video is never going to make it up. You know, we'll have to put something else up just because of the wind. I'm trying to think if there was something else I forgot out here. Covered the steering, covered all the hoses. Yeah, pretty much covered everything, I think. The fan shroud, you know. Air filter. Oh yeah, make sure your air filter is good and secure too, guys. This one's fairly easy. It's only got the one clip up there, really. Make sure there's nothing inside type deal. Pretty sure I covered that. I know some of you are probably wondering why I've got this here. Well, that's to stop the damn hood from squeaking. So that's about it. That pretty much covers it, I think. I think we got everything covered. There's no fresh leaks of any kind. We're good to roll, I think.